Thanks for being here. Appreciate you being in the room and talking with me and Janet Lee, who is the CMO for Samsung Mobile. We are going to talk a little bit about marketing, the practice, and the customer and principles, and then we're going to talk about innovation. But before we do, I'm going to ask you, what's not on your LinkedIn profile?
A lot of things are not on my LinkedIn profile. I think you asked me this question. That's what's one thing that people would never know about me. So I told Anne, we had a pre-meeting where we kind of got to know each other. I said that I'm an extreme introvert, and nobody would know that. I hate public speaking. I hate socializing. So everyone's like, you're lying. No, it's absolutely true. And I share this. Not that, people are interested in how I am at home, but to make a point that you can acquire skill sets and even social skill sets, presentations, how you carry yourself, how you speak at meetings. It has nothing to do with your personality. Those are all acquired skill sets, and anybody can be, outspoken. Anybody can be, confident and active in public settings. So take me as your inspiration, example, whatever you want to call it. But that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, it doesn't seem at all like you are introverted when we meet, at all.
Yes. I hate people taking my pictures also.
And we just had a picture.
For all the photographers running around.
Yeah, and she smiled, and she looked beautiful, and she's ready for the show. So you can't always tell what people are really about from their LinkedIn profile. So the other thing that I think is a little surprising looking at you and looking at me is that we are women in tech, but we don't probably think of ourselves as women in tech. You didn't start there. Can you give us a little about where you come from and how you landed at Samsung?
Sure. When to me, phrases like women in marketing is not so familiar because I grew up, and I built my marketing career in CPG setting. I spent most of my marketing years in beauty. Everybody was a woman. So when you create this special category for women in marketing, but everybody's a woman in marketing. So that's what I'm used to. So I was sharing this yesterday on a different panel. Until I came to Samsung and entered the tech industry, I never, professionally lived thinking that I was Asian, I was minority, I was a woman. I never had that awareness. Unfortunately, I'm acutely aware of that now because I enter any meeting I enter, I see sea of men, room full of men, and I realize, wow, I'm the only gal here. When I started my career at Samsung over in Suwon, Korea, on HQ side. There was this meeting every Wednesday. It was called Global Supply Chain Meeting. I kid you not, there are about 200 men. I was the only girl.
Wow.
So in R&D and other functions, there were more women. So now I'm more aware of that. And every time somebody says, oh, we want to hear about your career, like, why? You want to hear about my career? How is that interesting to you? I forget. And now people say, we're looking to Janet Lee as, women in tech, women, leader in tech. And I couldn't get used to it in the beginning because why? Why are you looking to me? But now I'm much more comfortable with it. I've accepted it because that's the reality in tech, especially in telco. So if I go to meetings with AT&T, Verizon, please do not record this, and I don't want them to know that I called them out. But I remember this one meeting with T-Mobile. I was the only woman on Samsung's side, and there was another person who was the only woman on T-Mobile side. We immediately ran to each other and grabbed each other's hands. but there's a lot of work to be done, and I think me coming from beauty background where I was never a minority, now I have accepted that that's me, and I am representing. I never thought of myself as representation of any group or any, cohorts, but now I get it. So before, if people reach out to me asking for mentorship or just saying that, wow, we're so excited you're on the leadership team, because there was no women before me. Now, before that, if people reached out to me, I would talk to them, but now I proactively reach out to other women and say, hey, I'm here if you need to talk about anything, if you need advice on how to, navigate through certain situations, I'm here. And they really appreciate it and they reach out to me. That was a long answer. But
I think it's fascinating for late in your career, and I don't mean that in the sense of our career can't go on very long, but to have a long career and then suddenly wake up and realize you're the only of anything. Mm-hmm. It's a shock. You take it for granted.
Oh, yes.
You come from beauty, though, and you came into tech, and you have tremendous CPG chops in your marketing experience. But you're coming into a company that's famously very much product-oriented, mm-hmm. product first. Mm-hmm. And so you are now owning a discipline mm-hmm. in this organization. I'd love for you to talk about how you take ownership of that.
Mm-hmm. So my team and I, we pride ourselves in driving consumer-centric thinking within Samsung and more broadly within tech. Because in the past, technology was so important, and having proprietary technology that leads to exclusive products or services was the driver of success. There was a lot of emphasis on R&D and then product, naturally. But as you know, and I sell smartphones, even smartphones have become a commodity, whether I like it or not, whether our biggest competitor accepts it or not. For the most part, even smartphones are a commodity. So now, who's going to win? We are. But whoever understands the consumer better, whoever resonates with the consumer better. So I give a lot of credit to Samsung, my employer, in that even though their identity is deeply rooted in technology development, they've come to recognize and respect marketing as a key driver and necessary discipline in order to win. I'm not saying it's all that easy doing marketing in Samsung, but there is that recognition. Even I've been with Samsung 5 years compared to 2017 when I joined. There's a huge difference. Back then, telling them you're going to spend a couple of $100 million in TVC, they would probably imprison you if they could. But now they understand. I mean, they spit out words like awareness, consideration, conversion, music to my ears. So it's gotten a lot better. And I made this point to you, Anne, when we talked earlier. Marketing is not intuitive. I'm sure there's intuitive part about finance also. Don't spend all your money. I don't know, but and same with supply chain. But for the most part, marketing is an acquired skill set, and it takes a lot of discipline, because consumer-centric thinking, they're like, oh yeah, empathy and think from the. Every day in practice, it is very hard to do. Because especially when you spend so much of your investment, your effort in developing technology, because you want to talk about it. And, it's hard for you to sometimes dumb down your technology talk in order to make it understandable, relevant, and resonant with the target consumer. But it's not an issue just with the tech industry. Same in skincare. If I ask my formulator to write product description, it will be, she will first throw the kitchen sink of ingredients and talk about very advanced delivery systems. Same thing. That's why marketing exists, and we're very important, because we are the bridge between the technology people, the sales people, and the consumer. So I guess my conclusion is that consumer-centric thinking is very important. Even in tech, it goes, it transcends category. So we were trying to drive that. Some industries like CPG, beauty, they've honed that skill for a long time so that they're much more sophisticated. There's a lot of work to be done in tech.
It's funny because at LinkedIn, we are an organization that our first principle is members first. And yet we very much end up thinking about our products and describing our products and how they work. And we're also known for being in the B2B industry. And it's like on the feed, it's, do you really want to download another white paper? And the answer is probably not. So as marketers, to keep that obsessive focus on who's the customer and what is it that they want and how do you want them to feel, it's hard to do in an organization that's constantly thinking about innovating new products. So when you are building a team, which you've been doing now down in Texas, how are you finding marketers and how are you educating those marketers? And what are you thinking about as like the essential skills that they need to have?
So I have to admit, I spent most of my marketing career in New York, New Jersey area. So down in Dallas, Dallas is great. I love living in Dallas. It's not as easy to recruit the talent that meet, the standards that I've defined for my team, just because the pool is smaller, pool of marketers. Here, just think of all the CPG companies, all the beauty companies, So that was challenging. And when I took my current role, I change the number all the time, but the point is I have few people on the team. And now we're a team of 79, 80. And I hired most of my team members during COVID. So even in building a team, you need to have a goal, target, vision, right? So I told my boss that I want to build, on average, solid A- team in terms of talent. So when when you're scarce of warm bodies, then you're very tempted to hire the first person that walk in your door. I would constantly remind my leadership team, is she going to help us get to that solid A- team? And if you think so, go ahead. So I put it on them to be the judge, and that's how we built our team. And the skill sets, the first thing, this day, I don't know if there's like a guidebook for, list of questions you should ask your interviewer, but everybody asks this question. What does it take to succeed on your team? What are some attributes you look for? So I say ownership, first thing, because ownership shows up in many different ways. So before I used to say, I detest taskers, I want thinkers. And then over the years, I kind of thought about what makes one a tasker and what makes another a thinker. And that all starts from ownership. If you own the objective towards which you were, given a task, then you say, okay, I got direction to do X, Y, Z, but can I do A, B, C, D and deliver better results against the objective? But that comes from, more sophisticated level of ownership, right? So in the end, everything is ownership. I used to have issues with people who have no questions. They're not curious about anything. So I talked a lot about intellectual curiosity, but then even that, I was like, why that person is always curious about things and that person is not curious about anything? That also stems from ownership, right? If you own the work, if you own your career, your contribution to the business, to the brand, and to your team, then you have a lot of questions because you think about it a lot, right? So to me, ownership is the most important thing.
So you start with the consumer, then you are very clear on what your objectives are and you own them. And then from there, right, you figure out what? Like, how do you go forward from there? You talked a lot about swagger. And I think even though you say you're an introvert, I still think you have an awful lot of swagger. What does that mean? Because you got to walk in there and get all these folks to do some crazy things with the creative you've been doing at Samsung.
Yeah. So people ask, we've done a lot of innovative marketing, at least, we say it amongst ourselves, but we've gotten a lot of recognition. So I was boasting to Anne all the awards that we won.
Barely.
But we don't do things just to do cool things or new things or things that nobody has ever done. We always start with very clear objectives and goals. And even when we work with creative agencies, I always tell my team, believe it or not, once you set clear boundaries in the form of objectives, strategies, then the creative folks, the creative agency, the creative team have a lot more freedom because they already know where the boundaries are. So within, they feel they're free to do anything as long as they, stay within the boundaries, right? When you don't have that, you're constantly questioning and you don't know what's okay and what's not, what you are able to do when you're not, what you're not. So even with my team, when we work on, when we just finished our internal workshop for 2023 planning, so objectives and all that, we're very clear on what we're trying to accomplish. And then I tell my team, once you've done rigorous upfront work and you are very clear as to why you're doing this, what you have to deliver, how you're going to measure success, after that, go to town. You can do whatever you want, and there's nothing that I will say no to, as long as, what you're proposing is going to uniquely deliver, great impact. So that led to some fun programs. So I have executive producer of reality show on I should update my resume, executive producer. So we've produced reality show. And I think I shared this in one of prior Brand Innovators, I think fireside chats. But, we launch two flagship phones a year. First half, we launched Galaxy S models. And when we launched in 2021, Galaxy S21 Ultra, the whole positioning of that phone was pro-grade camera. So pro-grade camera, that phrase came from our global marketing. And I asked my team, yes, we all get it because we work here. But if you didn't work here, how would you interpret pro-grade camera? They're like, some people may get that it's good for professionals, or it's like, is as good as DSLR. So I said, okay, let's show it to people. If we really mean that this camera is good enough for professionals, what does that mean? Even as a non-professional person, you can take pictures that are as good as the quality of pictures that professional photographers take. So I said, let's show it by inviting professional photographers and then have them compete using our phone. So that was exactly that. It's called Exposure on Hulu. So we partner with Hulu. Our production partner was Westbrook, Will Smith's production company, and our creative agency, BBH. So I have my head of creative here. She ran the whole program. It's like a full-time job, producing content. But there too, we had very clear objectives. Two things. One was driver awareness of the Galaxy S21 Ultra. And then two, we have a perception gap when it comes to camera technology versus our biggest competitor. So it was to close the gap. Are we recording here? Okay,
kind of, yes.
So at that time, and they don't know how we measure this. So according to our measurement, within the 18 to 29 age segment, the gap was minus 15. So we had very clear objectives, and then measurement also. and we wanted to measure brand consideration lift, product consideration lift, purchase intent for the phone S21 Ultra. So we created custom study. So also another thing I tell my team is you need to be able to measure success of your program. So there's no, it's not like, there are millions of measurement methodology you can pull from. Be okay to create your own, and that's where you exert your creativity and analytical skill sets. So we created this custom study. So get to the conclusion. We close the gap by 10 points. Yay. And usually those who are familiar with paid media, the lift brand or purchase intent consideration lifts that you get is rarely double digits, right? The lifts we saw was above 25 points, 30 points, just phenomenal. And we had inflow of new visitors. We had a dedicated page on Samsung.com. New visitors to Samsung.com, and over 60% came from our competitor user base.
So I'm hearing two things, which is great, because I think it's critical for your success as a CMO. One of them is I have the swagger to have a point of view about the consumer and how to make them feel the way we need them to feel. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to stick to that point of view. But then I'm going to, like you talk about, you've done this tremendously innovative work, which we haven't even talked about. I'd love for you to talk about it. And then you've been able to measure it so you can walk into the CFO's office and say, all that money you gave me, look what happened. It was worth it. All that risk you let me take, here's the outcome. Mm-hmm. That's powerful.
Yeah. And was there?
So the question I have, is how did you decide what to do? Like, where did the creative process, how did you get to that creative output from the brief that you thoughtfully developed?
So we have objectives and we have goals and the whole KPIs within our measurement plan. And then we go into, let's say, the objective was to drive camera superiority perception, and then as a result, close the gap versus our biggest competitor. We had list of features. So I don't know, some of you may be familiar with 100 times zoom. There are all these camera features. So what we did was, okay, in order to drive that camera superiority perception, we need to have the RTB, so the reasons to believe. So we listed out the key features that we wanted to showcase in the show. So what we did was we created, this was a competition reality series. So we created missions or, they're called missions, right? Missions that would highlight these features. So if it was 100 times zoom, then we do, we make the oh my God, it feels like it was ages ago. I don't remember all the key contents, but we create a mission around it, and that would be the highlight. If we were focusing on like night mode, night camera, then we would create a mission around that. And then, we show using these features, you create these amazing outputs. So that's how we designed it. And then also we had on our agency side people who have years of entertainment experience, and specifically this one person had experience in reality competition show. He was part of Project Runway, so he knew. So he kept saying, "You need to have some drama," So we wanted to. I was telling Jimmy was telling Anne that we went through pretty rigorous recruiting process for the contestants. We ended up with 8. We were seeing so many people, right? Because one, we wanted people who were really skilled at photography because their work is going to speak to our product's functionality. But then because it was a reality show and we had to get viewership, strong viewership. To me, viewership was means to an end. Like I need people to watch so I can convince them of our product superiority. So we partner with them, and we went through recruiting. We look for people who are highly skilled at photography, but people who had very unique personalities. So there will be some fun entertainment, you know. So we felt like terrible people. Towards the end, we're like, we want somebody to cry. You know?
Got to be good TV.
Is there going to be a little quarrel there? Yeah, because there's got to be some drama. So we learned throughout the process. But editing, we did 6 episodes. Each episode was close to an hour. So watching rough cuts of like 60 minutes and editing, we were just watching these shows like 2-3 times a week. It was truly a full-time job. So, yeah. And we did season
project.
2 also.
So tremendous innovation. And then how do you, like, partnership mattered a lot in making that happen.
Yes.
What have you learned about how to partner and how to collaborate
So,
to be successful?
Yeah, so I tell people when you get to my age, you have a point of view about just about everything, right? So my point of view on partnership, the most important thing is tight alignment of incentives. So you can't trust people, but you can trust their incentive and their interests, right? So some partners naturally have, business incentives, objectives that are very closely aligned to ours. An example will be Qualcomm. They sell chipsets to us. So the more we sell our phones, the more they sell their chipsets. So obviously, they're a very strategic, close partner that I can trust because our incentives are very closely aligned. Some partners, we have aligned incentives and we have conflicting incentives. So if you want to work together, then you need to make some adjustments and create more of, this is good for me, but how's it good for you? What's in it for you? So it's that process. And someone who can drive successful partnerships is someone who is skilled at doing that. So first, I need to make sure that our incentives are very closely aligned. And if I'm working with partners who are, agency partners, so I don't like to use the word vendor, but that's a different sort of partnership, right? So, and what's interesting about agency-client relationship is that, yes, there is clear aligned incentives, but there are also, there's some conflicts. What's good for me may not be good for,
Sure.
So you get it. So then what I do is, and my team, what we do is we make sure they understand our business objectives and our goals and our KPIs. And I jokingly tell our media partners, you're not my partner until you own my number. And when I'm losing sleep over my numbers, I want you to also lose sleep over my numbers. That's a sure sign of partnership, right? We need to co-own the KPIs and success measures. So don't tell me that you want to be my strategic partner. Know what that means. I'm going to grill you over my numbers and you're going to be stressed. That's what it means to be my strategic partner.
That actually completely resonates with me. I think about LinkedIn, and our vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. Mm-hmm. And so when we think about our relationships with our marketing partners, we think about how are we helping our partners be successful and drive growth, because that ultimately achieves our goals. Yep. And so you can come in with that lens of saying, what would we do together if we were one company? Yep. And if you can start to try to operate that way, it's hard, but it's a good base to start. Yep. Where are we aligned?
Yep. So when someone wants to be our strategic partner, then they need to own my number. But at the same time, we need to do our part to fully educate them on our marketing objectives, strategies, and how we're going to measure success. So every year we put together a one-pager with 5 strategic pillars. It's one page, but it has a lot of information. And my team, we set up, meetings with our partners, whether it's media partners or, so all partners, I walk them through that one page. And
Janet, thank you so much for educating us a little bit on how you practice the craft of marketing and how you get to innovation. Really great. Thank you.
Thank you.